Hey there, homeowners. If you're thinking about selling your home in 2024, well, there's some big news you need to know about. The recent settlement with the National Association of Realtors has changed the game for buyers and sellers. And today I'm breaking down what that means to you as a home seller. Let's get started. First, let's start with a quick overview. I promise not to bore you with all the details, but you kind of need to know how we got here. And you'll want to stick around to the end where I talk about some real-life scenarios that we're already seeing in the marketplace after these changes. So the National Association of Realtors recently reached a settlement in a class action lawsuit that had been going on for a couple of years. The lawsuit actually challenged the way real estate commissions were structured. It's a landmark change, and it's going to change the way real estate transactions work, especially for you sellers. The settlement is actually designed to create more transparency and fairness when it comes to how the transactions work and commissions are paid. Most of us are still questioning this, but only time will tell. But what does this really mean for you as a seller? Let's break it down. First thing you need to know is that commissions have always been negotiable and they will remain negotiable. As a home seller, you have a wide range of choices when it comes to listing and selling your home. One of the biggest changes are how seller commissions are handled. Traditionally, sellers paid both the buyer's agent and listing agent commissions. But under the new settlement, you'll have to approve any offer of compensation to your buyer's agent. The way these commissions are negotiated is going to look really different. This has to be an open discussion right up front between you and your potential listing agent. Your agent needs to give you the pros and cons of offering buyer's agent commission so that you know what choices you need to make. Typically, the more buyers who see your home, the more offers you get. The more offers you get, the higher price you're going to sell for. Offering buyer's agent compensation has shown us that this is really the most effective way to get those results. There's actually an ongoing argument as to who actually pays these commissions. Many argue that the buyers have always been paying them because it's baked into the purchase price of the home. And this gives buyers a benefit of being able to finance those commissions versus having to actually come out of pocket at closing. And it's because the buyers bring all the money to the transaction, even if the commissions are deducted from the seller's proceeds at closing. A seller choosing not to offer to compensate a buyer's agent could actually slash their pool of buyers in half, if not more. Asking a buyer to bring another $10,000 to $20,000 in cash to closing on top of their down payment and their closing costs could actually prove to cost you more money than it would be if you just offered to compensate the buyer's agent in the first place. It could cause your house to sit on the market much longer than the average, and that could cause it to sell for a lower price in the end. The other big change is that offers of compensation to a buyer's agent can no longer be mentioned or advertised in the MLS in any way whatsoever. This has both listing agents and buyer's agents in an uproar. Many are actually spending an awful lot of time just trying to figure a workaround. It's going to be critical that you hire an agent that's an expert in digital marketing and not one that just practices the traditional method of put it on the MLS and put a sign in the yard and pray somebody else sells it. I don't mind telling you, I actually kind of geek out on this. I invest time and money learning everything I can about digital marketing, technology, and automation. There are so many creative ways to market a house and sell it these days, but so many agents are resisting and just sticking to their antiquated methods, and that's just not going to cut it anymore. There's been some big changes for buyers in the settlement that you need to understand as a seller. A buyer now has to enter into an agreement with an agent in order to see a house. There are a few exceptions. A buyer can go straight to the listing agent, or they can actually see a house in an open house type of event. But this agreement with the agent, it actually outlines what an agent's going to get paid and how they're going to get paid. It's making a lot of buyers really nervous, and I do think that it's going to cause a lot of buyers to go straight to the listing agent. While this may sound like a great idea and may offer you some savings, it brings its own set of issues. We currently have a record number of transactions that are actually falling apart and not making it to the closing table. Unrepresented buyers are not always knowledgeable about the process and can really cause issues with timelines and the procedures. It is unlikely that your listing agent is going to handle both sides of the transaction without additional compensation. This is definitely a discussion you're going to want to have when you sign that listing agreement. Many of these buyers are understandably reluctant to sign one of these agreements just to see the first house. I mean, it's part of the process that an agent and a buyer would want to get to know each other to make sure that they're going to be the correct fit. This is an incredibly important transaction. This is probably the most amount of money anybody's ever going to spend. It probably would surprise you to know just how many buyers meet their agent in the driveway of the first house they see together. Believe me, this is concerning to agents too. It just seems wrong to ask somebody to get married before you've even been out on a date. Most agree that we should have a chance to get to know each other before entering into this type of compensation agreement. But here's the good news. These agreements have some flexibility. They can be for a day, a single property, a week. They really can be tailored to whatever makes you feel comfortable. And they can easily be canceled. These agreements do, however, state how much that agent is going to get paid and how they will get paid. If an agent's charging X percent to buy a property, let's say 2%, and let's say the seller of the property that this buyer falls in love with is not offering compensation. This agreement actually states that if the seller is not compensating the buyer's agent, the buyer is responsible for paying the agent at closing. This is making a lot of buyers nervous. It's going to be very critical that you have upfront conversations between buyers and agents regarding this issue. Many buyers are just not going to be able to afford it, and they may choose the route of going unrepresented. Not a good idea. Sounds to me like that would be going into court without hiring your own attorney. So I promised you a few real-life examples. Let's talk about this. So I'm in a whole bunch of online forums and local forums with agents all over the country. And this is just some discussion that I'm seeing. Some states have actually already instituted these changes before the official drop-dead date. And just talking to some listing agents, and they're finding out that their sellers actually see a value in offering a buyer's agent commission, and they're continuing to do so. They are seeing some sellers just really dig their heels in and say, no, I don't have to do that. And so I don't want to do that. And those homes some of them are sitting on the market. Some of them are seeing offers that are much less than what they were expecting. And in the same conversations, these listing agents are getting phone calls from buyer's agents that are asking the question if their seller is offering to compensate the buyer's agent. And when they're finding out that the seller is not, then those buyers don't actually want to see the house. So that's going to be a common occurrence, I think. For one reason, the affordability of homes has never been lower. In another similar conversation with some buyer's agents, their buyers are actually instructing them right up front, telling them that they don't even want to see houses if the seller's not offering to pay their agent. So that could be resulting in fewer showings of the house. And I'm hearing a whole lot of agents say it's business as usual. A lot of agents have already been using these buyer agent agreements because they're full-time professionals and chose to do so a long time ago. I'm one of those agents. Real estate is not a hobby to me, it is a profession, and I take it seriously. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. If you're thinking about selling, here's what I think you need to do right now. Research your options. You need to know all the services offered by an agent and what they charge for each of those services. You're going to want to talk to multiple agents. Don't be afraid to shop around. Interview a few agents, see how they're handling these changes and what they're going to charge. You need to know your bottom line. Be clear about your financial goals and what you're willing to pay to get your home sold. Lastly, make sure your agent is upfront about all the costs involved and exactly what services you're getting for your money. The real estate world is evolving, and this settlement with the National Association of Realtors is just the beginning. As a seller, it's never been more important to stay informed and take charge of your home selling process. The more you know, the better the decisions you make. If you're new here, I'm Teresa Fudge, local realtor. I specialize in getting homes sold for the highest price possible in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress. I'd love to have a conversation about how I can do that for you. My phone number is on the screen and in the description of the video. All you got to do is reach out. I've spent a lot of time researching these changes, and I've made the necessary adjustments in my business to make sure that I represent you at the highest level. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.